So there's a lot of misogyny, sexism, everyday sexism that just exists right across society. That's so unfair in today's world, but it is a reality of the world that we live in. Like, never at a moment in time did I ever think I'll be First Minister. And my hands were actually physically shaking. Because if people even sense a wee bit that you're nervous, it means that you care. You care. Prosperity is the thing that should unite us all. I want the public to know that I have their back. If you don't believe that you are what you're presenting, then how will anybody else believe? Well, AFI will be built, but one life lost is a life too many. But there's been over 50 lives lost. That's how dangerous it is. On my watch, this road will be built. When I be a First Minister for all, I mean it. It's actually how I'm going to roll. So in the political world, what people hear are the news headlines, which is a soundbite at a moment in time. It's not the whole story. You wouldn't allow people to speak to you the way they do on social media if you met them in person. So I would just block. And be particularly focused on speaking directly to maybe a young person who finds themselves pregnant in their teenage years. That, you know, that's not the end of life. That's the start of a new journey or a new chapter. Politics is about the will to change things. It's about taking something and trying to do something better with it. I mightn't have all the answers, but I'll know where to go to get them. I would like the legacy of this term, of this assembly, to be childcare. We get it right, we build the economy. My advice all the time, particularly to young people.
I just have one thing I'm asking of you guys today. If you love listening to the Dig podcast and you love all the new guests each week, then I'm asking if you could hit subscribe or follow. So if you listen on Apple or Spotify, if you could hit follow, and if you watch on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It means the podcast reaches more people. When I reach out, people actually have heard of the Dig podcast, they know about it, and they're more willing to be a guest. And then I'm able to bring even more actionable advice to you guys. So it's really it really helps the podcast grow. So I'm asking for your help on that point today, and I can't wait for you to hear from our next guest.
This is a very special episode of the Dig podcast. I would like to welcome First Minister Michelle O'Neill to the Dig podcast today. And just to give a wee introduction, not that she needs one, but for anyone listening from far and wide, Michelle first entered elected politics back in 2005 when she was elected as a councillor. In 2007, she was also elected as an MLA, and in 2010 became the first female mayor of Dungannon and South Tyrone. And that's when I first remember her, because I had a shop in Dungannon. So I remember Michelle as mayor there, and she did amazing work while I was a retailer in Dungannon. So we have her here today, and we're in Stormont. In Stormont, Michelle has served as a Minister for Agriculture and Rural Affairs, Minister of Health, and Deputy First Minister as well. Since 2017, Michelle has been Vice President of Sinn Féin, and in February 24, she became First Minister of the Executive, having waited nearly 2 years to take up that office. Michelle stood on a platform of being a First Minister for all and has stayed true to that pledge, working to deliver for everyone in society, regardless of their background. Aside from politics, just like the rest of us, as well as being a working woman, she's also a loving mother and grandmother, and enjoys spending her free time with her family and friends, just like all of us. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Thank you, Michelle, for being on the Dig podcast.
Delighted to be here, Caroline. Great to get it finally catch up with you.
So we've been trying, but you're a busy woman, and just like a lot of people that listen to the podcast, so busy in work and life, and it's crazy, it's mad. I don't know how you do it all, but we're going to dive a wee bit deep.
We need a few extra days in the week, maybe. That might help me sometimes.
I know, everybody says that, and it's not possible, unfortunately. So we'll have to find a way through, and it's hard. But Michelle, obviously I'm overwhelmed because you're here as the First Minister. It's obviously the first time I've ever done a podcast like this with someone in your position. So I feel very honoured to be here. But I also do realise that you are just a person with a story and a life like all of us. And everybody listens to the Dig podcast. Michelle, just to give you a wee bit of insight, there are people in the world of work mostly. So working hard, business owners, entrepreneurs, and people who work for people, and just people who want to do things better. But they all have a story, and I became so aware of that in all my interviews. And you have a story. And do people know it? Some people do, some people don't, but I think it's important to start with that. So what is your story from the start? You weren't always sitting here in Stormont as First Minister. So talk to us a wee bit about the early days, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we all do have a story, and that's what makes us, and that's what shapes us, isn't it? All of our own life experiences, what we all bring to the table. And I think there's a strength in that, because everybody learns from whatever's happened to them throughout their life. I always kind of characterise my story as I was a teenage mother. I come from a working class background. I have always been determined. I have always been a hard worker. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like, you know, just to deal with the day-to-day challenges that we all do. I mean, anybody who's like a working mum or, you know, just trying to do your best, you're constantly feeling that tug between, you know, trying to get the right balance in life, which none of us can ever say we're perfect at, but we do try, and we should always try. But my personal story is that teenage mother, coming through the school system, having my daughter when I was doing my GCSEs, going back into school, finishing my A-levels, getting into the world of work, trying to manage all of those things. And I'm very grateful for my story, because I'm very grateful because it all helped me be the understanding person I think that I am today. Well, at least I hope that's how people would see me. But certainly, I just think all that perspective makes me a good policymaker, makes me a good in terms of the political world, what I'm trying to do here in terms of supporting workers and families and communities, because that's ultimately what politics is about.
It absolutely is. And when you're saying that about, you know, becoming a mum when you're a teenager and those challenges, like there's people listening that face those, like what would you say to someone that is facing a huge challenge like that, maybe feels like they've lost their place perhaps in the world of work and life really? What would you say to somebody that's listening that's maybe at that crossroads?
Yeah, I think particularly for, I'd be particularly focused on speaking directly to maybe a young person who finds themselves pregnant in their teenage years, that, you know, that's not the end of life. That's the start of a new journey or a new chapter. And I'm dead lucky because I had enormous family support. And when you have that around you, you know how lucky you are and you can really, really value it. Not everybody out there has that in life. So sometimes I think we all just need to be very mindful of taking a look around us, around what's going on around us and the people around us, and perhaps their own struggle and their own life journey that they're going through. But particularly for young people, particularly young mothers, it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's challenging. Like, it's really, really difficult. And there's days you beat yourself up about what you did or didn't do, or what you managed to be able to get done or not. And I just think that we need to keep saying to people, all you can do is try your best. Every day, get up and go at it again the next day. That's certainly what I did in life. That's what I do every day, even now. There's days you feel that you're doing well and you're on top of the world. There's days where you're not. And that's okay. But I just think we all need to be very caring and remember everybody's got a story to tell behind their smiling face when you see them on any given day. But particularly for young mothers, we all struggle. And I think sometimes you need to hear that even for somebody else to say they're actually getting it a bit tough too. And then you realise that, how long, it's not all bad here. I'm just like everybody else in that way.
No, and you will give so many people listening confidence, perhaps somebody in that situation, to see, you know, that you've progressed through your career and are where you are today, and that can happen. And it's amazing to see. So, and we are going to talk about childcare as well on the podcast, because that's so important, because there will be people listening saying, well, I can't get over the challenge because I've no one to support me, and we'll talk about that. But all my questions here, I don't know if we're going to get through them all, Michelle, but it'd be so good to even spend the time. But confidence. So obviously when that was happening to you, your confidence does get knocked in the world of work and life and just in general. But what would you say about helping people with their confidence in, like, you do a lot of public speaking now, and you know, were you always able to do that? What did you do to, we're always thinking on the Dig podcast of a toolkit to help us overcome when we're feeling nervous to have to pitch at business and work. What do you do to help with your confidence when you're feeling nervous about things? Maybe.
Well, I don't think any of us are ever just like born confident. I don't think we ever do that. I think you learn over the years. I mean, if I look at myself, my first ever public speaking role when I was in council, for example, way back in 2005, the person you'd have heard then and the person you hear today, or would be night and day, complete transformation. But that all comes with the experience of just doing. Like, I remember International Women's Day once telling a story about getting up to do my first speech, and my hands were actually physically shaking. Now, that's a long time ago, but there's times even now where you still be nervous, but that's all right. I actually think that that helps you actually deliver, because it's how you use your nerves, actually how you turn it into something positive, how you use it as like an energy, really, that you can use. So I still would be nervous. I would say that to anybody listening. I still can be nervous getting up to public speak.
And do you do like something do you do self-talk inside? What do you do to overcome it?
Yeah, so you have to do your wee bit of breathing, try to get your breathing right. But then just use that wee energy, that wee bit of an edge that you have, and hopefully that helps to translate into people actually seeing your positivity, because if people even sense a wee bit that you're nervous, it means that you care.
You care.
And I think that's really important, because I think generally when people are listening to someone public speaking, they want to know that they're passionate about what they're talking about. So that wee bit of an edge isn't any harm. So I don't think people should, give themselves a negative for that. It's actually okay to be nervous and just learn. My advice all the time, particularly to young people in terms of confidence, is push yourself outside your comfort zone just that wee bit every day. Think of something that just makes you that wee bit anxious and just push yourself to do it. And I always say two outcomes will happen. One, you'll succeed, and then you know you can do it, and you'll do it again. Or secondly, you mightn't succeed, but you'll learn a lesson as to why you didn't. And again, that's a positive experience. So just pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and believing in yourself, because confidence comes from, if you don't believe that you are what you're presenting, then how will anybody else believe that you are what you're presenting? So I think that has to come. It has to start in here within yourself. Actually, that wee bit of inner core strength that we all have. Sometimes we need a wee bit of a shake to go and find it, but we all have it in there.
No, so you always believed you could do this role, right? You always did know deep down inside that it was there to represent everyone. You can see that. You can see the passion in your eyes anyway when you're telling us that. So hopefully people who are listening will do that, push themselves just that wee bit if they're scared. Think of the words from Michelle today and see how she has done that to help her in her role. So when you do that, this is the thing, right, Michelle? This is a big, big thing for me, for everybody that's listening. Sometimes when you do put yourself out there, you get hit with the negativity and other people's opinions, perceptions of how you are, and it can just make you set you right back. Like, we've all been there. And whenever I mentor businesses, they'll say, I don't want to do, perhaps we'll talk about social media or whatever, or putting themselves out there because they're afraid of what people are going to say. Is that something that you've faced, and what did you do then to overcome that?
So there's a lot of misogyny, sexism, everyday sexism that just exists right across society. And unfortunately, women are judged in a very different light to their male counterparts. So when a woman in business, a woman in politics takes to the floor to speak, to deliver something, to talk about something, they're critiqued on everything from their makeup to their outfit to their hair or whatever. That's so unfair in today's world, but it is a reality of the world that we live in. But one of the underbellies in our society is misogyny, and we have to call that out. That means women checking other people and men, everybody in society checking others whenever they hear that misogyny. Don't let it go unchecked, because otherwise you're part of it. And I think that's something that we as a society need to grapple with, because that sort of underbelly of misogyny is still rife, and it's still quite horrible. And I just think that for me personally, how I cope with that is I choose not to see it.
Okay.
So particularly in a social media world, I would refuse to engage in negative commentary, because I believe in surrounding myself with people who are going to give me honest feedback, people who are going to give you an honest critique. Perhaps that was a great performance, or maybe you needed to do something a bit better there. But if you surround yourself with those kind of people, then you have an honest view of the world. All that negativity that comes, particularly on the social media space, which is equally good as it is to the negative things that come from it. I just think that we have to just knock it on the head, and we have to call it out whenever we see it, particularly whenever it's misogyny.
Yes, and I suppose abstinence from reading it can protect your mental health too.
Sure, because you can really get into a bubble and really feel like this is just the whole world view. I always say, remember, social media is not the world. It isn't the world. It's not where everybody lives. Clearly there's a role for social media. It's how we communicate with the world today. But it needs to be a space where there's fair play, and it needs to be a space where you wouldn't allow people to speak to you the way they do on social media if you met them in person. So we shouldn't allow them to do it first. So I would just block. Get rid of any of the negativity. Do not engage in it, and try to protect yourself that way. But then surround yourself with a circle of people who are going to be honest and give you the kind of feedback that you actually want. Yeah,
so true. Because sometimes you can get 100 positive things, but one person says something horrible and
you fixate on it.
Throw you.
Yes, you totally fixate on it, and we just need to maybe teach ourselves to not do that.
Yeah. A person said to me one time, if you drink poison, you're going to get sick. So that was really good advice. So if you continue to read that, and that helped me overcome a lot of things. So thank you for sharing that, because that's really good advice. That'll help people. So you did touch on social media. Social media is, as you said, can be used in such a positive way. And I see a lot of the work that you're doing online, and you're using it in a positive way to connect. That's obviously a conscious decision of yours. How effective has that been? Because we have a lot of people listening, Michelle, that are on social, that are businesses, that work for people and haven't embraced the platforms yet because of the things we just talked about. But how positive has it been for you as a leader?
It's hugely positive in this way. So in the political world, what people hear are the news headlines, which is a soundbite at a moment in time. It's not the whole story. So I find social media is a great platform. All the platforms are great in order to be able to communicate in a much more real and honest way, to be able to say, let people see interacting with how you are with young people, or how you are with different groups that you've met, and you get a chance maybe to say more of the story and actually communicate it much, much better. So for me, it's a powerful platform, and one that I regularly use, obviously, across all the different outlets. But I just think it's a huge opportunity, but with all that opportunity comes what we've just talked about, the pitfalls and the downfalls, but we have to have strategies in which to deal with those things. But I'd say that probably the benefits outweigh the negatives, I think. And I think it's where we do communicate and put messages out there now. People do quickly do a quick scroll, when they wake up in the morning before they go to bed at night, they're constantly looking to see what's going on. So for me, it's a positive platform, and it allows me to let the public see that I, as their First Minister, that I, as an elected representative, I'm out and about, engaging with everybody, trying to do my best for people. I want people to know that I have their backs. I want people to know that I'm always going to do my best. I think that gives me the chance to do that. It also allows you just to have that interaction because you can get the feedback, usually constructive. And you can, like we would do like online surveys and things like that, where you actually get the views of the public on certain issues. So, for example, one of the things that we're talking about in the Assembly today is around baby loss certificates. So anybody who's been through a miscarriage, previously you wouldn't get a birth cert. So nearly like it was the system saying it didn't happen.
Didn't matter.
And that really, really, really hurt so many people. So we listened to that and we engaged and we did an online survey. We got immense feedback from people to say how important this would be to them to have their child that they lost acknowledged, by government. And we're going to do something about that. So there's a good example of how to use the social media platform in which to engage with people. And over the course of the weekend, I think we had like a couple of thousand people actually came forward to talk to us about that one issue. So there's the power.
There's the power. Yeah. And that's the example you give to people that are perhaps saying, oh no, it's not right for me, I'm afraid. Well, if you can do something massive like that,
yes, exactly,
that changes people's lives.
You're actually changing lives.
Yes,
yeah.
And businesses can change their business life if they do this. And so I'm always a great advocate for it. I think it's brilliant when you're sharing that story. That's another example. So hopefully people listen and say, right, I'm going to take the bull by the horns and do an online survey, see what my customers want, see what my people want. So that's a great example. But great to see how politicians can use it, and use it at the forefront of changing lives as well. So look, whenever you became First Minister, it was historic, obviously. How did that feel for you and your family? These are massive milestones for you in your life. Like, what did you feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I never, we're talking about what's my story earlier, and like never at a moment in time did I ever think I'll be First Minister of the North of Ireland, Northern Ireland, whatever you're comfortable calling our place. But here we are now, and it's truly historic. I mean, it speaks to the change, I think, that's happening right across the island. But this was something that was never supposed to happen. Someone from my background, a nationalist or Republican, was never supposed to be First Minister in this place. It was designed in a way to ensure that it didn't happen. But again, does not speak volumes in terms of the change. So I felt enormous pride, personally. I felt pride for my community. I felt pride because I fought the election on being a First Minister for all. And that's not a slogan. I actually mean every word of that. I would practice that.
First Minister for all. So there's people listening to the podcast, Michelle, from all over community, all different communities, different walks of life. And I represent them, and from the business world for all, you're representing everyone for, like, what does that mean to represent for all? What does it really mean?
So we're in a lot of ways a divided society, and we've come from a very difficult past, and traditionally people stay in their lane, whether you're a nationalist or a unionist, whether you're British identity, Irish identity. But I think the world and the place we live in is very much a changing portrait. And my election as First Minister for all says that, yes, I am an Irish Republican. Yes, I am proud of, my community, my background. But I want to be much more than that. I want to represent everybody out there in society fairly and equally. And I think I can do that. And I believe that's what the public endorsed whenever I was elected as First Minister, because people want that as well. People want that togetherness. People want us to live side by side. You see, everybody is comfortable in their own background and where they come from. That's all right. I think actually that's the beauty of the Good Friday Agreement. Be who you are, but equally work with others. And I think we'll achieve so much more whenever we work together. So that's why I'm determined to bring all the parties of the executive together, to continue to work with everybody, because we'll get so much more done when we're working together. And we care less about who gets the credit, but more about getting the job done. And that's the approach that I have taken from day one. And I believe that's what the public are endorsing. They like that togetherness. They like someone who's going to stand up for everybody regardless of their background. And just that has not been the history of this place. But now it's changed, and I am determined to lead by example. And that means me stepping outside my comfort zone. That means me doing things that perhaps someone from my background has never done before. But I'm very comfortable with all of that, because when I be a First Minister for all, I mean it. And that means doing things that are important to other people from different backgrounds as well. And I'm hoping that in my first 10 weeks in the role, people can see that in action. They can see that I've actually lived up to the promise that I made. Because as I said, I remember someone said to me once about it being a slogan, and I said it's absolutely not a slogan. It's actually how I'm going to roll.
And it's when you walk the walk, yes, people will see. So this is what I always want to know, right? I always want to know, how do you know what we need? How, like the people listening from both communities, and how do you know what that community needs, what we collectively need? How do you know? How do you stay in touch with the people on the ground?
Us. Well, I'm an activist.
Okay.
That's my background.
Right.
So that's community activism. That's on the ground. That's as close to your own community. I am also part of the community. So I have the same needs and wants as everybody else, as does my family. Childcare, which I know we're going to talk about. You know, my daughter's going through, you know, getting ready to go back to work, and she's thinking about her childcare options. It's like, these are all, my family and me go through the same things as everybody else does. Being a good political leader is the ability to listen. You have to have the ability to listen and to hear what people are saying. And constantly, sure, I'm on the ground always. I'm meeting people constantly. People aren't shy about telling me what it is that they want, and rightly so. And what they tell me constantly is they want political leaders to work together. They want us to be focused on delivering things together. They want that unity of purpose around good public services. They want us to fight the good fight and getting a proper funding model so we can do childcare, health service reform, all the things that we want to do. But they want to see that constructive, pragmatic relationship across political parties and our ability to be able to deliver for them together. So I get that constantly by being out and about. I get it from my own constituency in my own backyard. I get it from my own family. I get it from my own lived experience. But I'm always somebody who says, I mightn't have all the answers, but I'll know where to go to get them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the listening piece.
I think sometimes when you think of people in politics, and especially us all here as a team in the podcast today, walking about Stormont, you sometimes feel like politicians are on such a high level that they're not real people. That's sometimes
which is nonsense, because everybody is a person.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own life.
Yes.
Where we started earlier, you know, and everybody brings their own expertise. That every MLA here is a constituency office, and they're listening to their constituents coming in every day, so they know what the issues are on the ground. They know what people are anxious about, and then they're all here. I believe in the main, everybody's here to try to do their best.
So if there's people listening and they have issues with any of the things that we're going to talk about in the podcast, or anything that we don't, what would you recommend them to do then to try to get
up the phone? If they want their voice heard, then pick up the phone to your local MLA, no matter who that is or what background or what party they're from. Pick up the phone and let them know what you're thinking.
So interesting that you say that, because I've never picked up the phone till an MLA in my life, and I've been complaining all my life about business and work. But it's, you know, like, I would never have thought that was achievable for me to be able to reach someone whenever I was paying rates in Dungannon or whatever. But it's actually, you're just putting it in the black and white.
Because politics, well, for me, politics is about the will to change things. It's about taking something and trying to do something better with it. For me, ultimately, it boils down to, what can I do to better people's lives? That's the bread and butter on a day-to-day basis. And for my party, I'm going to speak for my own party, but we've councillors on the ground who, again, are right close to the community. They will hear all the issues. So lobby your councillor, lobby your MLA, get in touch, send an email. That's how my inbox is full. I mean, I'm constantly reachable. People are always in touch. I have a great constituency office in Cookstown, and they're working with people every day. And people will come in to let us know what they think and what they're feeling about something. But I think up there in terms of the issues, which I know we're going to talk about, is childcare.
Let's talk about it now, because we keep bringing it up, and I think it's important. Talk to me about that.
So one of the biggest issues that are facing working families today, isn't it? I mean, the cost is just through the roof. The accessibility is difficult in parts. It's patchy in parts. So for me, this incoming executive has to bring about a change in terms of childcare. I would like the legacy of this, the rest of this term of this assembly, to be childcare, that we have delivered something on childcare now. Some of the things that happen here, we're a devolved assembly. So a lot of the powers, some of the powers of government are still in Westminster. So some of the things aren't within the gift of this assembly to do. So for example, the 20% childcare tax break, that's done from London. So that's there. We'd want that to be more, and we'll continue to fight for that to be more. But what can we do here as a local executive? And I think I come at it this way. We need it to be affordable. We need childcare to be affordable. We need to provide, or to help the childcare providers to stay in place so that they are actually there and available for parents. And we need it to be able to, the number of places needs to be there as well. So in my view, we fix childcare by doing a number of things. We help the childcare provider. In turn, they then need to pass that on to the worker, because the childcare worker is predominantly a female workforce. So those staff need to win. And in turn, there should be a cap on fees for families.
Okay.
So that's a win-win. Everybody wins in that scenario, the provider, the worker and the family.
Is that possible?
That is possible.
Okay.
Yes, it is possible. But it's going to take political will across the board and everybody working together. It's going to take us a bit of time, because I know some people would say, why not now? These are in 10 weeks.
Right.
You don't turn around a government policy in 10 weeks. But we will. I think we can do really, really good things here in terms of childcare. And I am determined to work with all the other ministers who all have their own ministerial responsibility. Sometimes how this place works is a bit challenging for people.
It is hard to get your head right, and I'm just be honest, even walking around, it's like all these different departments. I think maybe perhaps now in social that people are getting more, especially the executive with educating and all. I think people just need more education about it. It doesn't just happen like that.
Yeah, so you've got 4 parties around the executive table.
Right, okay.
That's 4 different parties in government together. Each minister in each department has their own autonomy. So the health minister has his job to do. The education minister has his job to do. Then you've got the collective executive, which is all the parties working together. But we have to not work in silos. We need every department to work together if we're going to be able to do some of these things, particularly childcare, because I think that is one of those big... If you're in that category of a young family at the moment, working families, people are all struggling with the same thing. And it is like, for some people, they're working just to pay the childcare bill. So we need a combination. It's not one. There's a combination of things. There's early years investment. There's the likes of the Sure Starts, which are absolutely amazing projects. We need more of that. We need that tax 20% to be much higher to allow people to be supported. And again, that's something that can be done in London. So it's a combination of things, I think. But I would say to your listeners, this is something that we're determined to do something about. I also know some of the major employers are already doing things as well proactively. So it's about how do we all lean into each other and actually get this right. But if we get childcare right, we get it right, we build the economy, more people can go into the workforce. A lot of women are having to withdraw from the workforce because they can't afford to stay in it because of the cost of childcare. So if we can get all these things to fall right, and I think we can, then I think we can see a very transformed childcare picture. But it is going to take a bit of time.
Right. Well, that gives confidence to us, the listeners, and to me as well, because I met a group of ladies, melted parents, melted parents. Yeah. So they're on a mission, and rightly so, and they're staying in touch, I know, with you guys in Stormont for all the issues on the ground. But I was shocked to read the things that people are going through. Thank God I have support and I have, people at home, and I do have an unreal childminder as well. But my mum and Jared's mum definitely step in. But so many people are struggling. So it's so good to hear that that's because...
And so many people, I was so lucky whenever my kids were younger because I had my parents to be able to help. Not everybody has that support in today's world. So it's difficult for people. To me, this is an economic issue as well. Mm-hmm. It's going to help build the economy if we can do more. So, and that's early years investment in our kids. I am absolutely passionate about getting this something done in terms of the childcare front, but it's going to take a combination of things to come together for it all to be right. And it will take there's no point in not being upfront about it. This is not something we turn around overnight, but it's something that we can do, and I think gradually increase over time.
Okay, well, we're glad to hear that that's a huge thing you guys are working on, and we can't wait to hear an update on that really soon. This is the first time I've looked at my clipboard and I don't know where I'm supposed to be at because I've just been asking you what's been coming into my head. But I suppose I had written what are the main issues as a priority for you to deliver. So obviously childcare. What else is an issue for you, Michelle?
So, seeing some of the reports maybe last year around special educational needs and around some children not getting a place in school, that's not good enough. It's totally not acceptable. So right up there in terms of the entire executive's priorities, we've identified childcare, special educational needs, Lough Neagh. You and I both live close to the Lough. I mean, that's a huge, huge issue which we have to do something about. And again, there's no quick win there, but there is an absolute urgency in terms of us being able to turn this around. But it's going to take a bit of time, but absolutely, that's one of our priorities. Healthcare waiting lists. Everybody can see the mess the health system is in. Not through any fault of the staff, because they are absolutely amazing, incredible. My own mother's just out of hospital. I mean, the care that they give to our loved ones whenever they need it is amazing. And how they manage to do their job, given the circumstances they're facing, is just beyond me. So our health service needs to be transformed, and that's up there again in terms of one of the priority issues for the executive. We have to get waiting lists down. People need to get access to their doctor whenever they need it. We need multidisciplinary teams working in communities so care comes closer to people. It shouldn't all be about the hospital end. It needs to be about the community care end. Again, complex picture, but again, something I think we can honestly do something about over time. Biggest problem this executive and this assembly has, is that we're underfunded. And if I was to ask people to take away one thing, that is the reality. I wish we had a bigger pot of funding in which to share around to do all the things that we want to do. But at this moment in time, it's now evidence that the executive is underfunded from the Treasury in London. But that's a battle we've taken up from day one. Myself and all the other executive parties are united with one voice in this. We need a proper funding model so that we can do more in childcare, that we can do more in terms of health service, education, and all the other things that we've identified as priorities. But if you don't get that part right, it's very hard to get all the other things that come under it right. But this is a battle that Kiva Archibald, as our finance minister, has taken up on the collective executive's behalf, and we're determined to keep driving forward. And who knows what's going to happen on the other side of a Westminster election later this year. Is there a Labour government in London? Will they move to do more in terms of public services? Will that mean additional funding for here? That's certainly, factored into some of our thinking about how we're going to be funded going into the future.
This is a tough gig you're on.
It is. It's not for the faint-hearted.
It's not. And you're sitting talking about that, and I'm like, right, what about businesses? Like, what support is there, Michelle, for businesses on, things are tough out there, people are telling you, and I hear it all the time, and it's scary. And I suppose a lot of the people would say, when I told them that I was coming to see you today, can you ask her, what is the Department of Economy and Finance and yourself, what's the plans for helping businesses? Is the support coming or what?
So we've been able to do really good things. This is why I believe in a local assembly, because whilst we won't be able to do everything that everybody wants, even to our frustration, we can definitely be there, and we can do some things that are within our grasp. But particularly for my own ministers, so we have the Department of Economy, we have the Department of Finance, and we have the Department of Infrastructure. 3 very strong economic departments, because you have to invest in your infrastructure. We need, particularly in terms of the finance brief around rate support, rate help, what does that look like in going forward? And then Conor Murphy, who's our Economy Minister, he's made his pledge around sort of 4 key areas that he wants to focus on. We have, and maybe this is more for big business, but dual market access. We now have access to both the British market and EU markets. That's massive potential for us in terms of getting investors to come here, because we become this fantastic place in which to invest in. That then lifts everybody up, because that's more jobs, better jobs. Conor's very, very keen to ensure that is spread out. There's a regional balance. It needs to be felt outside of the Greater Belfast area. It needs to be right across the board. So tackling an imbalance that's been there in the past, where investors were all targeted towards Greater Belfast area. Well, my stat in itself is fine, but it needs to be much, much wider than that. So regional imbalance is a big thing for him as well. Review of planning. How do we make our planning system work much quicker? Because a lot of business people would tell me that's a frustration whenever it comes to getting development plans through, that things can take too long. So there's another area that we can work. So I think there's real synergy across our 3 departments where we actually can really, really help people. The skills agenda. There's a new world post-COVID. People are reskilling themselves. People are thinking about new careers. I think the world is kind of, in a lot of ways, the work pattern has changed. There's more work-life balance. There's more work from home versus office time. There's a whole lot of things I think that are changing there, but I feel very strongly that Conor's economic vision is going to lift everybody up, because prosperity is the thing that should unite us all. Everybody doing well is the thing that should unite us all. So I'm quite excited for what we can do with those 3 departments, and then obviously across the wider executive as well.
Okay, good. So people no doubt are listening that are struggling. There's people doing well, of course, and there's people who are trying their hardest and just can't get their head above water. So let's have every faith in our executive that that's going to help this hard work. And I suppose, again, like you said, reach out to your local office, your MLA, tell them your concerns in business, and then they can bring them to the Department of Economy and Finance and to the team here in Stormont to take action, because they need action. So you talked about Department of Infrastructure there, the A5, Michelle. So I watched a documentary the other night, and regardless of business, emotion, family, it was Kevin Hughes's family. And I know the A5, the danger, and then locally as well, we've lost people close to where we live. But what's the plans for the A5, or what are we talking about here in terms of any kind of improvement in that project?
Well, A5 will be built. This is ridiculous that it's taken so long, and this is actually not even the fault of politics. Everybody agrees the A5 needs to be built. It should have been built 14 years ago, but it's been marred in legal challenge after legal challenge. It's been through public inquiry, it's been through the courts. people are objecting to the road being built. All these environmental concerns are coming forward, which are fine. You have to deal with those things. But 14 years is ridiculous by anybody's book. Conor Murphy actually way back then, whenever he was infrastructure minister, announced this project. And here we are in 2024, still talking about it being built. I'm hopeful now that the public inquiry is out of the way. John O'Dowd, as the infrastructure minister, has to do his due diligence in terms of analysing all of that. But I'm hopeful in the coming months that we'll be able to make very good progress and there'll be some really good announcements. But the road will be built. On my watch, this road will be built. I am absolutely determined. As you said yourself, so many families have lost loved ones. Some very, very recent, and as you said, close to ourselves. But one life lost is a life too many. But there's been over 50 lives lost on the A5. That's how dangerous it is. So that road will be built.
Good. And then obviously the positive effects that will have for business will be huge as well because of the traffic there, travelling, commuting and all. So this is so good for you to say that with such conviction that it will be built in your watch.
It will be built.
Amazing, because that's just such a huge thing. And yeah, I suppose like you're only a few months into your new role, Michelle, and like what does the future look like for us here in this country, and like for, I suppose, what does it look for us as people, and then what does it look like for the business community? Is there going to be those big investments that we're hoping from outside places? What do you see us looking like in whatever many years? Like what is your kind of 8 years that you're putting on that kind of vision that you have?
So I'm very much looking, so last year we celebrated 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement.
That's right, that was a big
moment in time, and we had a lot to celebrate because despite the ups and downs, this place has been completely transformed and for the better. But we have a lot more work. So my eyes are focused on the next 25 years. My head is absolutely focused on how can I build that prosperity for everybody? How can I help workers, families and communities? How can I do my very best and bring my A game to work every day for them? And that's what First Minister for All for me is about. It's about trying to do my best. I want the public to know that I have their back. I want them to know that I will do work night and day to try to transform and to deliver better, because ultimately it has to be about better for everybody. So whenever I look towards the future, I think there's a lot of things on the horizon. There's a lot of change. My election as First Minister speaks to change that's happening across the island. There are a number of electoral battles ahead, a number of electoral contests, which will change the political landscape again on this island. It's no secret, I believe in Irish unity. I want to see constitutional change on this island. I believe there are immense benefits for that for all of us who live on this island in terms of the business community and the economy. Imagine the strength of the whole of the island economy. That is something I think that we have to now plan for and have a really big conversation about. What could that look like for me as an individual? What does that look like for me as a business? What does that look like in terms of what does our place look like in going forward? But I believe in doing that and having that conversation about constitutional change whilst also being here every day, trying to build our economy, trying to deliver good public services, trying to find that unity of purpose. Because I think in life there's far more in this political world that unites us than divides us. And I think if we focus on those things, then I think we can build a stronger economy, a fairer economy. We can lift people up. We have to continue to fight the battle here for strongly funded public services. That's not the case under the Tories for the last 13 years. But I'm hoping change is coming there too in terms of the Westminster election and what potentially could come out the other side of that, which will allow us then to here in the executive to do our best. So I'm hopeful. Despite the challenges, I am very hopeful. I didn't know this actually until recently, but I was travelling to the United States to tell people that we were open for business, that we were a great place to come and work and invest. We're actually we're the third happiest people in Europe, believe it or not. I really learned this. Well, we're a very young population.
All right.
Yeah, we've got a very strong entrepreneurial spirit.
We do.
We have a lot to sell in terms of who we are, and our small place of the world makes a massive imprint across the international community. And when I was in the United States over the last couple of weeks, it was all to sell our wares. It was all to say, come and invest, because ultimately then that's going to help everybody who lives here. So this, for me, I'm focused on making sure that young people that they're waking up and there's hope and opportunity in their hearts, that they have the ability to do whatever it is that they want to do in life. So for me, political leadership is providing that vision. It's about providing that hope. It's about trying to create that opportunity. It's about lifting everybody up so that everybody shares. Whenever you're winning, everybody must win. Otherwise, it's not a win.
Absolutely. The third happiest in the world.
I think it's Europe.
Oh, Europe.
Yeah.
Oh, I just made it the world there. Okay, third.
Why not?
happiest-
Let's go.
Okay, we're the third happiest in the world. I'll take that. Yeah, but it is a good place. It is, and everybody works hard, and you do see a change, and there's positivity, and we do need to shout it from the rooftops that we're here, we're doing great. Like the businesses, as you know, that in this country, like blow your mind the things that people are doing, and from the small entrepreneur to the big, companies. Every one of them shining in their own field.
They really are, and we see them all. I mean, they're all around.
They're right behind the camera where we are now.
Yes, exactly.
Like all the people that have made this happen today are all like, and it's just so exciting.
It really is. It really is. And I think a lot of the times the news headlines focus on negative stuff. There is way more positivity out there. Yes, there are challenges, and yes, we must tackle them and do something about the things that are difficult. But I do believe there's way more positivity out there in terms of where society is, and as you said yourself, like we are blessed with like such amazing talent all around us, and we have something to sing and shout about.
We do, and thankfully people do seem to be lifting each other up, like across all communities. Everybody is working together. I see it so much now. It's so brilliant to see, and a great feeling for the future.
Yeah.
So Michelle, how do you switch off? So I want to tell you this, the last series we did of the podcast, right, was sponsored by Mars Pharmacy, and they wanted to try to make people in the working world learn how to look after themselves better, because life's so busy and you can really struggle with loads of things, your physical health, mental health and all, because it's mad, crazy. How do you, like, everything you're doing, like you've got schedules. I know everybody's busy, but I mean, you are in a very high powered position. How do you switch off? How do you look after yourself?
It was great difficulty.
Okay. Well, we want to know what's possible.
No,
so please give us some hope.
No, you do have to. And I made myself a promise whenever I came into the show that I would try to get that balance right. You need some time in the week to just be with your family, just to de-stress, to come down a wee bit, to connect with people again. For me, I do that with walking. When I can, get out to walk. I used to do the gym a lot more than I'm doing at the minute, if I'm truthful. But I like to try to get to the gym where I can. But I love to cook. And that's actually how I de-stress. So my family laugh at me. So whenever I've had a very, very busy week, I want to cook for them all. That's just me de-stressing, taking it out in the pots and pans and actually cooking a meal.
What do you like to cook?
There's nothing I won't cook, but I love to barbecue. I even barbecue in winter.
But come on now, we're not the great. I was going to say, we don't have the best weather for that type of cooking.
I barbecue even in the winter all year round.
Right.
But just anything that's like where a family can dine together. So that's my connection to my family, bringing them together, cooking for them, sitting around, catching up with everybody, just knowing what's going on. I'm a grandparent too, so there's nothing more joyous than that, I have to say. And that just gives me I don't know, that's, if you need to recharge the battery, then a wee snuggle there doesn't do any harm.
No, and you know what, just shows, people do, I suppose, feel like someone who'd been First Minister position so detached from, but at the end of the day, you're just normal.
No, sure. I'm a mummy, I'm a granny, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a partner. I am all of those things, just like everybody else, and I'm trying to manage all of that in life. But that's, I suppose, I'm not unique in that way. I might have a different job to everybody else, but everybody's trying to manage the same things. And
it's not easy.
We all struggle, I think, probably at times to try to get it right. But all you can do is just keep yourself in check. And
so you'll make us a good feed when we're stressed is what really it all boils down to.
Yeah, eat your feelings.
That's good. The stakes are on and there's rain, hail or snow in Michelle's house, but it's just good to hear that you're just like all the rest of us. And I want to thank you for being on the Dig podcast today. A momentous moment for the podcast to have someone in your position agree, first of all, to say yes, speak so openly about the fact that you are there for everybody. And we can see that in your eyes and your body language and everything, the way you are. Like, I think if anyone's listening, that's very evident that we have to reach out if we have concerns. Everyone in the executive seems now to be working together. You and Emma are working really strongly together as a team, and we have to all embrace that and use that now for our advantage. So thank you. Maybe next year you'll come back on and tell us about the improvements and all.
Absolutely, I'd love to do that, because that's what it is. We have to deliver.
Yes, that's right. Because words are words.
Yes,
we need action.
Yes, so I absolutely understand that. We're 10 weeks in. We're giving it our all. And I am very happy to come back and talk to you again whenever we're able to make progress across some of those things that we've talked about.
There. So you heard it there, as you promised. So coming back in the Dig podcast. Thank you so much, Michelle, and good luck in the next few months and years or whatever in your position. And we can't wait to catch up again soon.
Thank you, Caroline.